You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
It's Later with Mo Kelly and Marsha Collier on this Tech Thursday. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. Marsha Collier, let's dispense with the pleasantries because we got to get to it. Signal. It's I would say, a portion of the biggest story in the world. Most people may not have known about Signal. What is it? Beyond, obviously, some sort of communication
I thought it was some sort of religious thing, personally. I didn't really know. But since we know about Signal, and one of the things people don't know is, what is encryption? And it encrypts. Well, what's encrypt mean? Well, there are different kinds of encryption, but in this case, I'm sure you've heard of end-to-end encryption.
Yes.
Which Gmail supposedly does.
Right.
And Signal does that with your texts, as does WhatsApp, as does Telegram. So it's not uncommon, but you can have man-in-the-middle attacks. And a man-in-the-middle attack, just like when somebody can come up to your house and seize your Wi-Fi system so they can rob you and your alarm won't go off. People can intercept your phone and get all the information. But, go
ahead. Please continue.
But we had a solution to this, which I don't understand, frankly. And we'll talk about the Signal company in a minute. There was BlackBerry.
Yes.
If you remember, President Obama used BlackBerry till the end.
All right, hold that thought because I want to play this clip which kind of highlights where I think you're going. And this is Chris Pearson, who is the CEO of Black Cloak. And he makes this distinction that I want you to elaborate on. So listen to this, please.
A text message that you send between yourself and your parents, your brothers, your friends, that is pretty much akin to sending a postcard, writing the information on a postcard that everyone can see in the mail. Not going to be secure. If you have to transmit that information to a family member, social security number, other information there, and you want to use encrypted communication, Signal is going to be an application of a choice, but it is a consumer-based application. The real issue here is that for sensitive or classified information that is being used by and transmitted by the government, that number one, the devices must be protected, and number two, the application and the transmission of the data must be protected. Just simply using an encrypted app that is only consumer grade on a personal device is actually going to open up the United States and others to foreign spying, hacking, and other risks.
What I want to know is he makes the distinction between encrypting the data, which you just talked about, and also the device protection. What does he mean by that?
Well, the data encryption and device encryption. In a device, it encrypts the storage on the device, which we have actually currently. Windows has a built-in program, as does Apple, File Vault on Apple. But those are full device encryption. Now, what Signal does is it takes the data, encrypts it. In other words, turns it into gibberish. So if somebody did intercept that, they wouldn't be able to make sense of it. And that's a call or a text. And once it lands on their servers, because it has to land on a server for it to bounce back to somewhere else.
So, okay, so you can't necessarily hack Signal, that data transfer.
Right.
But I get the sense that like a personal device, since we're talking about government, may be more susceptible to being attacked.
Well, have you ever seen something that's called mil-spec when you're looking for a case for your phone or a battery? Mil-spec means military specifications.
Okay.
Okay, there are grades of security. I don't know how many there are, but just like President Obama was told, stop using BlackBerry. It's a danger.
Why is that?
Because it wasn't mil-spec. It wasn't strong enough. You see, you can have a rope that's 1/4 of an inch thick. You can have a rope that's
great analogy.
4 inches thick. And there's your difference. It's a lot harder to saw through that 4-inch thick rope. So that's your real difference. It's a high level of security. And if your disk is encrypted, where you store the sensitive information, it'll prevent unauthorized access.
Got it.
So they can't be hacked. So you see, there's other softwares involved here too that are protecting, we'll say, the hard drive, but that's a little bit.
So people understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Basically the hard drive and keeping the data in gibberish should anybody break it through. But if you've got mil-spec, which brings to the whole thing, why does not our U.S. government, since BlackBerry had these great products, and we know Signal, and Signal is a 501(c) charitable foundation. Their in data and their data of programming is free for anyone to use to develop new software.
Or deconstruct and reverse engineer, too, I would imagine.
Yes, you can. But, I mean, they take donations. I checked it. It's owned by the Signal Foundation. So when it comes to all of this, we've gone to space, for heaven's sake. Why can't we put together an app that's used for governments? Karen Bass would be real happy if we had one of those. I mean, all levels of government. It should be what our government uses to talk to each other, period. And it should automatically record their texts and their calls so that the record is kept, as you know, technically must be kept.
Because of the Federal Records Act, and that's what you touch upon. But I'm guessing, I don't know, I suspect that people are using Signal because they don't want a record of everything that they're communicating.
Exactly. And that's true. You can use Telegram and WhatsApp, like I said. But still, when you're talking about military, when you're talking about thousands of lives at stake, when you're talking about bombing and sinking ships, you really, really better put down the dollars to put together real software. And honestly, since we have such a base of excellent software now, I can tell you, I'm sure that there is something, but it should be distributed to all government agencies.
Or, let me ask you this, the possibility it does already exist, that level of encrypted software which will protect not only the communication but the device, but individuals have chosen not to use it.
Well, you see, that's the problem. You know, it's like we talk about our elected people. How many of them ever ran a business? Do they know how to run a budget? I don't know that they'd know how to run a device, even a phone, that has to send out a ping to translate.
But I don't think they have to know. I'm quite sure they're instructed. I'm quite sure there are protocols that are put in place, such as don't use your own personal device to communicate sensitive information, which we know is a variable in this discussion.
Absolutely. But they don't know. I mean, if you remember any of the congressional hearings or the Senate hearings, when they ask questions, no offense, I'm sure they're really nice people in our elected government, but they don't know jack about tech. I mean, kind of having somebody like Elon, good or bad, can at least teach them some sort of tech, or his people can teach them something that's going to make our country safer and better for everybody. Because, spies.
But we know, and you're someone who's traveled the world, you have been to China, you know about their capabilities and their intentions. Security doesn't mean much if not everyone, for example, let me make it real basic and easy for people to understand. You can have the best lock in the world on your house, but if you leave the door unlocked when you walk out, it doesn't make a lot of difference.
But again, like I said, mil-spec, consumer grade. There's a guy who can walk up to your house and shut your Wi-Fi down with a $199 device.
That's consumer grade.
But they're telling you you're going to be protected by having this expensive system running on Wi-Fi. Oh, let's Wi-Fi your door locks. Yes, let's make that safe.
Marsha Collier, I love you for that. You just gave us the pure, unfiltered truth, even though it may be scary. But speaking of scary, let's talk about 23andMe and what has just been announced regarding that court case and bankruptcy filing when we come back. It's later with Mo Kelly. Marsha Collier joins me in studio, dropping pearls of wisdom. We're live everywhere, the iHeartRadio app,
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
It's Later with Mo Kelly, and Marsha Collier continues to join me in studio on this Tech Thursday. We discussed earlier in the week what is going on with 23andMe, the DNA company where you can find out about your ancestry, whether you're 23% this or 25% that. And I remember saying that since they're going through bankruptcy, I would be very scared if I had given my DNA, if only because as they try to settle up with their creditors, the only thing that 23andMe has of value would be its data.
That's the only asset. That's all there is. Now, you and I talked about this a couple of years ago.
Sure did.
As to why,
and you warned us then.
why we shouldn't be doing this. Now, they're bankrupt. They owe money. What happens? They have to raise money, so they're going to have to sell their only assets. And I believe it was yesterday, the judge in the case gave them permission to sell the DNA data.
They don't even have to do it surreptitiously.
No, they have a judge's okay. I mean, this is. Now, remember, we in California were covered by the California Consumer Privacy Act. Yeah, very nice. Our politicians did that. But the Genetic Information Privacy Act, GIPA, is a federal act which covers all of us. And we may have a really robust policy in California, but everybody is. So let me tell you what to do, because the judge said, well, you can settle the sale of the company then and then. And so it's a moving target. It's when things happen in the stock market, you just can't put a finger. It's like trying to catch a falling knife. You don't want to do that. So I want anybody who has ever used 23andMe to go to the site, sign in your account, and go to the settings section of your profile. In the settings section of your profile, scroll to the section labeled 23andMe data at the bottom of page. Click View next to 23andMe data. Now, download your data. You paid for this. It is yours. If you want a copy of your genetic data for your personal storage, choose the option to download it to your device before proceeding. Do that first.
Here's my question, because I always think like a criminal, even though I'm not one. The criminal in me would say, well, just because you downloaded your data doesn't mean that you have the only copy of your data, that it's not still going to be sold to a third party.
Not mil-spec.
Well, there you go. I mean, but I remember, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I remember how 23andMe was bending over backwards. They had an actual ad campaign they were doing on radio stations saying that, no, we're not going to sell your data. Your data is safe, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And maybe that was the truth or their original intention. Well, it's being sold now.
Right. But the thing is, the other company, Ancestry, was at least tied in with helping people get to records and information so they could put together their family's genealogy. 23andMe had nothing, really, except
you had to input the data.
Yeah, you're 2% from Iceland. So once you download your data, you just scroll to the delete data section. That should be easy. Click permanently delete data. Now,
like they don't have a copy somewhere.
Right. Okay, Mo, I'm telling you.
I know, you just say what they're saying. I know, I get you.
The way to, actually, they didn't say this, everybody, but there's more. Confirm your request. You'll receive an email from 23andMe. Follow the link in the email to confirm your delete. So once you've deleted it, you better answer that email. Otherwise, you haven't confirmed you want to delete it. Now, if you've previously opted to have your saliva sample and DNA stored by 23andMe, and a lot of people did for research purposes, things like that, you want to change the preferences, and you can do that from your account settings page. Go to Preferences. And you can withdraw consent on the account settings page under Research and Product Consents. So do it. Under GIPA, which I mentioned earlier, California consumers can delete their account and genetic data and have the actual biological sample destroyed. Now, whether they're going to do it or not,
it's just like like pinky swear.
Yeah, it's pinky swear because I remember when this was first coming up, famous school, I think it was Harvard, did a study because they would tell you it's anonymized. It's under a number. It's not under your name. But they could tell from either the saliva or the blood or whatever what pollens this person was inhaling. They could narrow down to a mile of where that sample came from without having that information, and then put in, oh, well, there's a red hair gene here. How many redheads live in that one? Okay, so, and they can go through the genetic data and blow your cover. It is not anonymized.
Well, that's cheery. I feel all better already. No, actually, I'm very glad that I never did it, and to my knowledge, no one in my family has either.
Yeah, you never know.
I said, as far as I know, no one in my family has. Maybe they did it and didn't tell anyone. The next thing I know, Mr. O'Kelly, you're wanted for murder.
No, but
because you match a genealogy profile.
Yeah,
DNA profile.
I don't understand when we see the crime movies where the guy drops his coffee cup in the garbage can. All of a sudden, the CSI guy just picks it up and, oh, we have his DNA now. Oh yeah. Like, how could that be legal?
Because I actually do know the answer to this.
Oh, good. Tell us.
Because just like anything which is in your trash can out on the street, you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy for that which has been discarded. So if it's been discarded, now I don't know if they can just, take a glass off your desk just because they came in to talk to you and try to take your DNA, but stranger things have happened.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a cynical person, so I just believe the worst of people.
I'm to the Club of 24, if you remember that series. Trust no one. I really don't trust because it's too easy to break the rules.
Marsha Collier, more great advice. Trust nobody. I don't trust Mark. I don't trust Stefan. Damn sure don't trust Twala. No, I'm being serious, Mark. I do not trust you. Don't even like you.
No, you shouldn't. This is perceptive on your part.
Marsha Collier, always great to see you.
I'll see you next week, and let's have a cheerier topic.
Well, look, the world is going to do what the world's going to do, and the news is going to be what the news is. I know.
I don't know.
No guarantees.
I don't know. Okay, we'll figure out something.
I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
The CIA used experimental intelligence methods to attempt to locate the Ark of the Covenant. And this information was not recently, but it was in recent years, was declassified. And the recently resurfaced documents, as reported by the Daily Mail, it outlines how the CIA used what they call remote viewing. This is where we need George Norrie. Remote viewing to mentally locate the site of the artifact. And the CIA's Project Sunstreak took place in the 1980s and used remote viewing to describe remote areas or concealed data via unknown mental processes. In one exercise, the remote viewer was asked to locate the Ark of the Covenant. And how about this? This is how uncanny and exact the remote viewer was able to give the information. Reported it to be, quote, somewhere in the Middle East. That really narrowed it down. Hidden, underground, dark, and wet. That is uncanny how close and how accurate this remote viewer was. Somewhere in the Middle East, hidden underground, dark, and wet. The CIA will never cease to amaze me. But it's unclear how successful it was, and it's believed to be possibly in the possession of the CIA. And maybe you're not old enough to remember Raiders of the Lost Ark. Maybe you're not a student of history or biblical literature, and you don't know what the Ark of the Covenant is.
Nazis have discovered Tanis.
Just what does that mean to you, Tanis?
Well, the city of Tanis is one of the possible resting places of the Lost Ark.
The Lost Ark?
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant. chest the Hebrews used to carry around the Ten Commandments.
What do you mean, Ten Commandments? You're talking about the 10 Commandments?
Yes, the actual 10 Commandments. The original stone tablets that Moses brought down out of Mount Horeb and smashed, if you believe in that sort of thing. You guys ever go to Sunday school?
Well,
Oh, look. The Hebrews took the broken pieces and put them in the ark. When they settled in Canaan, they put the ark in a place called the Temple of Solomon.
in Jerusalem.
Where it stayed for many years, until all of a sudden, whoosh, is gone.
Where?
Well, nobody knows where or when.
However, an Egyptian pharaoh
Shishak.
yes, invaded the city of Jerusalem around about 980 BC, and he may have taken the ark back to the city of Tanis and hidden it in a secret chamber called the Well of Souls.
Secret chamber.
However, about a year after the pharaoh had returned to Egypt, the city of Tanis was consumed by the desert in a sandstorm which lasted a whole year, wiped clean by the wrath of God.
Obviously, we've come to the right men.
So is this art imitating life or life imitating art? You had the remote viewer who said it was somewhere in the Middle East. Check.
Mm-hmm.
Hidden underground, dark and wet. Check.
Uh-huh.
And what I'm hearing in Raiders of the Lost Ark is eerily reminiscent of somewhere in the Middle East and hidden, dark and wet.
I just want to be here on this planet when they crack it open, when they finally open it up, when someone goes down into the chamber filled with snakes.
Why'd it have to be snakes?
Damn snakes. To get the exact location and get to the Well of Souls and have it opened up on a mountaintop on a very stormy, windy, rainy night.
In front of Elon Musk.
Where all the camera would be broadcast live on X, and we can watch them all mummify, liquefy, and explode in person. That will be true art imitating life.
I believe that the CIA has the Ark somewhere in its archives, just like the movie. And like Mark said, it's probably in a box, and they're top men who are looking at it right now.
Done your country a great service, and we thank you. And we trust you found the settlement satisfactory.
Well, the money's fine. The situation is totally unacceptable.
Well, gentlemen, I guess that just about wraps it up.
Where is the Ark?
Where?
I thought we'd settled that. The Ark is somewhere very safe.
From whom?
The Ark is a source of unspeakable power, and it has to be researched.
And it will be, I assure you, Dr. Brody, Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones!
We have
Dr.
top
Jones!
men working on it right now.
Who?
Top men.
Hey, what happened? You don't look very happy.
Fools. Bureaucratic
What'd
fools.
they say?
They don't know what they've got there.
The CIA doesn't know what it has. Believe it or not. Hey, Mark, what do you think?
I enjoy Nazis' faces melting as much as the next guy.
Art imitating life. Oh, boy, let's talk about adolescence when we come back. Dr. Jones! Dr. Jones! KFI AM 640, we're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI, Mo Kelly, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And I had basically another homework assignment for the guys here. I didn't explicitly say you need this to pass the class, but it was kind of just understood it was extra credit. The first homework assignment was watch Paradise on Hulu. And everyone who's hit me on social media at Mr. Mo Kelly, MrMokelly, every single one has said some version of, Mo, you were right. Paradise is absolutely fantastic. I really put a lot on it, and I had no problem with it because I was that confident in the show. I'm also that confident in Adolescence on Netflix. It is fantastic, if only because of the techniques which were used in telling this very different story. I'm not going to give all my thoughts on it, if only because I want people to see it, and I don't want to preface how they may feel about the ending because it's a limited series. There are only 4 episodes. So you're not going to get everything in the 4 episodes. But I'm curious to hear people's thoughts. One person who took the extra credits assignment was Stefan. Meant to get to this yesterday, but we didn't get a chance. So let me take a step back. Stefan, you didn't tell anyone in advance that you were going to watch it. You just started watching it, right?
Yep. Just went home one day and I was like, you know what? Let me check this out. Especially after you and Gary talked about it. I thought it's got to be something interesting here, you know? And, I would say it lived up to the hype as far as not only the technique that they used, but also the story itself is really, really good.
Did you see all 4 episodes?
No, I just saw the one.
Okay.
So far.
All right. Yeah. So I won't get too far ahead of myself. I was absolutely amazed because as you watch the different episodes, and this is true of all 4 of them, they cover a lot of physical ground. It's not just a one-shot scene in a room or a house. They are literally going into a house, upstairs, downstairs, leaving the house, getting into a car, driving to the other side of town, having dialogue, getting out of the car, going into the police station. They have this someone being fingerprinted, and you go into different interrogation rooms. You have all these things happening in a linear fashion. It's a 1 hour in real time on a particular day in telling this story.
It's so impressive. It almost makes you feel like it's almost voyeuristic the way they shoot it, because you never get a chance to just, you wait for that break and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go get a snack or go to the bathroom. It's
Can't do it.
You cannot do it because your eyes are glued, and I even found myself catching my breath. Like I was like, oh, I wasn't breathing. Like I was just so focused. And this doesn't give anything away, but there's a part where they, like Mo was saying, when they travel and they go into a van, you don't even realize that it was one shot the entire time. Yes. Because they go into it, I won't give any details, but they go into a van and they're, showing the characters and they're talking this and that. And they come out, they never broke. They never cut away. It was the entire time. And now you're in a completely different location.
And it's timed perfectly. I don't know if they were just driving around the block.
Yeah, right.
4 or 5 times. And so they could finish the dialogue, but they finished the dialogue and then they're at the next location and they somehow, you don't see the camera shake or anything like that. They get out of I swore it had to have been some sort of trick editing. And I was Googling, trying to find something. Nope. One shot, and explain how it was done. I just don't know. It's like you have these different locations, and I'm quite sure they're radioing ahead. Okay, they're almost to wherever you're going to go. Be ready. They're going to be ready to walk in, and they have the next scene, if you will. And I say scene as in air quotes because it's just one big scene.
It almost feels like, especially that specific scene, it's almost as if they were flying there, because the camera movement was so smooth. And like you said, there's no shaking or anything like that. It's just like, how did they go from the house to the van to the next spot? It was like, what's happening here? And I'm kind of like, now I understand what Gary was saying. I'm not going to look anything up until I'm done with the whole thing to see what the trickery was, because it really is impressive.
I looked up everything at the end, and I'm actually more impressed when they laid out how it was done, how many people were involved, how the transitions were completed, how often they actually rehearsed to be able to do this. And also I kept learning other things. The young actor who plays Jamie, his name's Owen, if I'm not mistaken, Owen Cooper, I think. That's his first time ever acting. Ever. Hadn't been in a school play, had an agent, and didn't do anything professional work. That was his first time. And you think about the expansive sceneries and the amount of dialogue. He didn't kick not one line. Nobody did. And when you work in something like radio, we're reading copy for I don't know, like a live read, like I'll do a Dodgers live read or something. I am lucky if I can get through the whole thing without kicking a line and messing up or stumbling over a word. And nobody stumbles over anything.
No, it's unbelievable. And I thought of you and Gary when I was watching The Kid, knowing that this was his first role, and he absolutely, just one episode in, he kills it. I mean, like, especially get to the end of the first one. Whew, I was just like, this is his first job?
The word of mouth on this is through the roof. And as more people talk about it to other people, they see it, it's going to break all sorts of records. Here's what I mean. It opened with a massive 24.3 million views in its first 4 days, talking about Adolescence. Adolescence was the most watched title on Netflix during the week of March 17th through the 23rd, with another 42 million views, taking the show to 66.3 million views so far, more than any other Netflix limited series has achieved within a 2-week period. And Adolescence did it in 11 days. And it's only picking up steam. Mark, I think, would love this if and when he gets around to it.
I'm a big fan of these one-shot things. You guys are making me remember that great oneer in True Detective in the first season.
Oh,
where
yes.
They went on a chase for blocks. There's a great Scott Adkins martial arts movie called
One Shot.
One Shot, yeah. In fact, it's just
Michael Jai White.
Yeah. Older movies like Russian Ark. That stuff's really impressive, and the amount of prep that goes into those is just mind-boggling.
The only difference is this show, Adolescence, has, I'll say, crowd scenes where you're having 50 to 100 people at one time in a particular scene, in a particular location, and then they go to another part of the city with equal numbers of people. I don't know how they pulled it off. It is a magic. It's a magical presentation of a TV show.
Yeah, I don't know if you do what I do. You kind of impulsively try to reverse engineer things that you see that you realize, oh, that was amazing.
This, it's almost like a magic trick. Like I said, there's got to be some way that they're tricking us. There's got to be, but it isn't.
Yeah, like if I didn't know ahead of time the technique that they used, I would have probably watched all 4 in one night. But because I knew it was coming, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to catch it. I'm going to see if where this is where they cut her. This
right, where the edit is.
Yeah, like, where's the edit? And it's like, nope, you cannot catch it. It is so, it's smoother than butter. I mean,
becomes
it's
a
crazy
game to look for the cheats. Like that Saturday Night Live movie that came out a few months ago had a lot of stuff like that in it. And I kept on looking like, okay, where is there a shadow flashing across the screen where there could have been a cut? When people do that well, it's amazing.
I watched all 4 episodes consecutively, binge watched it, was done in 4 hours because it was that engrossing. Not only for the camera techniques, but also for the story and the ambiguity of what is happening as you're going through it. You're not exactly sure what to believe or whom to believe, even though they're pointing you in a certain direction. They're pointing you.
Yeah.
But you're not exactly sure if it's going to be that. And I don't want to say too much. But if Mark ever gets around to the extra credit assignment or Tawala, we'll have more on Adolescence.
I'm excited for it. I'll probably watch the next one tonight because, it's just, man, it
gets better, progressively better. In other words, the second episode is better than the first. The third is better than the second.
It keeps picking up.
It picks up in intensity.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be sent to detention. I'll have to get to it this weekend.
Damn sure better. It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
Your vaccine for stupidity. KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere.